Hey, what's going on, guys? Heads here from Infinity Loops, and today we take a look at the ideal 1S indoor proximity freestyle ripper, according to rotorriot. Now, it's got a cutesy little name like the Bubito, but I don't really care about the name or the shape. I just care if it freestyles. So let's take it outside, give it a rip, and then bring it back inside, and we'll fly it indoors as they intended it. We'll see how it does. Here we go. Now, since they do advertise this as being an indoor ripper, we have some drywall here, so we're just going to see how it does if you maybe smack into your drywall in your house with an open prop.
Oh, can't see anything? No problem. Camera looks good. Oh, now we're looking really good. Now we're looking great. I got focus on it. Get a number to the camera again. You know, not having any camera protection and having the lens stick out really far is probably not a great idea.
So now that we have officially built, flown, and broken the Bubito, let's have a little talk about it. Now, I know a lot of you, if you have seen the Affilate Baby Nazgul, are probably thinking this is very similar. And you'd be correct. This is extremely similar. I know they did say that it was smaller than this, but motor post to motor post, it appears to be the same. It looks like the top plate and the bottom plate are smaller. However, when both are on a scale, even though the Baby Nazgul doesn't have a built-in VTX but has a standalone, the Bubito still comes out to be half a gram heavier than the Affilate Baby Nazgul. Now, the issue with that for me is the only thing I didn't like about the Baby Nazgul was you get like 1.5 minute flight times and it handled really poorly because it's heavy. It's way too heavy. So this being heavier and having a higher kV motor means it's going to be a little more stressful on the battery. I just didn't see it as being that great of a flyer to begin with, but I needed to check it out to make sure. So now that I've had some experience with it, I can say, one, it does not go together very well. If you got the DIY kit, prepare yourself. It's a little frustrating. There are a few tips that I'm going to give you now to try to help with that. I took some close-up pictures to try to explain what was going on during the build so you can see what the issue was. So we'll start at the top with the battery holster. The TPU on the bottom is printed too thin, so the battery actually sits on this top plate bolt. So I had one BT 2.0 battery actually get a nice little hole ripped into it after a few crashes. So that is something to be aware of when you're flying this, is that your batteries they bend. The cells bend in here when they get pushed up against this rear bolt. Moving on, another thing I can mention about the top plate is if you're going to have the flight controller flipped upside down and not put a hole in the bottom for the USB plug, then at least put some type of way to access it a little easier from the top without having to take the top plate off. I know it's only 3 screws, but still it's kind of annoying when you just need to change something really quickly. Having the BT 2.0 plug didn't really seem to make too much of a difference, in my opinion, to the flight characteristics. I still think it's just a weight thing. It wasn't really ever something that I thought a BT 2.0 pigtail would cure, but maybe make it a little bit better. To be honest, I didn't really notice a huge difference between my flights with the Baby Nazgul and the Bubito. Moving on, I got a completely different, doesn't look anything like the camera mount that they have listed on the website, as well as all the other pictures I've seen of it around. It looks like even in the simulator, in liftoff micro drones, they have a different camera mount than what I have here. The camera mount I have, and I'm not sure if this is different on the other one, I don't have it to compare it, but the lens sticks out very far, which we found out very quickly that if you run it into a wall nose first, your lens is the first thing to hit. So poor design choice there, as well as the bottom of the camera is laying on the bottom plate of the quad. I tried running the TPU print both directions. I flipped it upside down and tried it both ways, and any way to try to make it fit better and get it to sit near the bottom. The issue is when it sits near the bottom that the camera itself, the base of the camera on the backing, gets pushed up. Another flaw with the camera mount would be that the props touch. So when the props are on, you actually do clip the sides of the camera mount where it grabs onto the front standoffs. So I just took some side cutters and just snipped away some of the filament there, and now they spin nice and smooth past that. There were absolutely no instructions included with the kit, which is par for the course for most of these kits. However, if you're newer to building quads or micro drones, I probably wouldn't recommend this kit. This would be a little more advanced kit, just because there is quite a bit of soldering you need to do, soldering each motor on, as well as the camera wires and the pigtail. Speaking of the instructions for this quad, I contacted rotorriot myself, their customer service, to ask about a CLI file for the Bubito, and the file they sent me, I double checked, the board orientation is incorrect. So the roll axis and the yaw axis are correct, but the pitch is inverted. So I have a edited CLI file down below in the description if you are interested in that, and that will give you the board orientation the correct way so that you can fly instead of arming and having it flip constantly. The flight controller actually sits right on the rear standoff, to the point where, I mean, you can't even spin the nut to tighten it down. On top of the flight controller, you have to hold the nut still and spin it from the bottom because it won't get past the standoff. It's just way too close. A second issue that I found with the flight controller is that the rear of the camera is smushed up against the front of the flight controller. You'll also notice in my footage that I was just having bad VTX issues from Jump Street. I couldn't figure out what it was. My goggles work great with the Pico Razor. I use it on all my other quads. I'm not sure if it's just the flight controller. Maybe it's the built-in VTX in here. I tried running it on different bands. I tried running it at different power levels. I tried everything that I could think of. I tried reflowing all my solder. I couldn't find anything wrong with it, and it just kept doing the same exact thing. Not until the end, when I started purposely slamming it into the drywall, that the VTX just completely started crapping out. But even before then, in my outdoor footage, you'll be able to see slowly the VTX just got worse and worse. All my antennas are still hooked up just fine. Everything looks good on the underside. I just don't know. It just keeps getting worse, and I can't figure out why. So if you are in the market for an indoor freestyle ripper for some indoor proximity practice, this is not the one, in my opinion. Nor is the Baby Nazgul, nor is any other open prop 65, 63, whatever millimeter platform. They're just not that much fun. They're really hard to tune properly and get to fly really well and tight. It's way easier to, in my opinion, to freestyle on a larger prop. It's way easier to fly something inside and do less damage to the quad with something with ducks. Whoops have just come, like I said, so far, and these are just kind of silly to me at this point. So with all of that being said, that will do it for the Bubito. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, guys.